My name's Willissa, and I'm just involved, just for my experience, having to deal with finding a place and just trying to help the community so they don't have such a hard time and waste the money. Once I started getting DUIs, I was put in DUI court, and it was a program, but I wasn't ready, so I gave them a hard time and just kept doing what I wanted to do. So I went to prison from DUI court, not following the rules or whatever. And then I came out and I caught another DUI and went back to prison. And then I came out and did well, then I caught another DUI. So I went back into DUI court, but at this time I had grown and just lived life. So I got through that program, and it was kind of rewarding because the people that I gave such a hard time to got to see me do good. And then I got out of there, and I still had this anger issue. And so I was in a bad relationship, and so it led me to being in Women in Recovery, which I just went in and said I'm gonna work on me and start from the beginning. And so that's what I've done too. So I've recently graduated and I'm doing well. It asks, like, do you have any prior convictions, or have you been charged with a crime within the last 7 years? Or some of them word them different, but you have to put yes, and so it just goes from there. And then even being in this program in Women in Recovery, when we get to a certain point, we have to move on our own, and the cases are open. And even though you've went through this program and you've changed and you've become a better person, it was hard. Like, I've spent almost $1,000 in just application fees for people to tell me no. Like, I was to the point where I was like, you know what, I'm gonna just live in this program and pay them $200 and I'm good, because it was ridiculous. And so I just kept going and finding an apartment that was owned by one person. And so I called him and I was like, look, let me tell you my story, and will you rent to me, because I'm tired of paying people. And so I had to send him, get a letter from my program, tell him what I'm doing to better myself, and this whole spiel before he rented to me, but he did. And even with that, he was like, I'm gonna double your deposit, and if you're willing to move in, then you can move in. I was like, at this point, I don't care what you charge me, I just need a place to stay. It does. It just, you say, I've done my time, and you come home and you coming home to nothing. You're having to start over, and they make it so hard. It's just like, you want someone to do better, but at the same time, you're hindering them to push them right back into the lifestyle that they lived. And I mean, unless, you gotta be a strong person. Like, it's hard to find a job, you have to put in the work. And so you just ask yourself, when does it stop? But even when you do change all the way around to be positive, you still have that title on your head, because when they look at that paper, they're seeing the paper tell them, well, she's done this, this, and this, and this, but they don't even talk to you because they stopped at the paper. And so it's hard. It really is hard coming out of prison and trying to restart, because you have to go somewhere, but where do you go? No, because no. I mean, they have these little re-entry programs, but at the end of the day, going and working at a fast food as a crew member, or a grocery store, or wherever you can get in slightly, isn't going to get you to where you're self-sufficient. It's going to get you to where you're barely making it. So therefore, as criminals, they say, we're going to go back to the criminal thinking where we can make money and survive. And it's not helping, because you're leaving them down here and they still needing to think, what can I do to make it? Because this isn't going to make it. People up here in the middle class is barely making it, and they don't have a record. So it's just, I feel no. And at the end of the day, like today's market, you need at least $3,000 just to move in, not giving you if you need a couch or a bed or an ice box or whatever it is. So the price is just going up, and then working a minimum paying job, you ain't gonna even be able to pay your rent. Well, you can with both your checks for the month, but then what's left for your food or whatever else you need to do to survive. And it's like, you know, when we moved here in '99, I lived in a 3-bedroom house out north, and the rent was like $475 or something, $425. And today that same house rents for like $1,100. And it's just like, where? And then it's like, then you're stuck, because it's like, well, if I'm gonna pay $1,200 or $1,300 in rent, what do I need to do to go buy this house? Because my mortgage is gonna be cheaper than that. You know, so it's just like, what do you do? It is, and just going through the experience, like I've managed a lot of fast food companies, and I mean, if I could build my own, I would hire nothing but felons, because it's so hard, so they appreciate it and they come to work and they're ready to work and they're willing to work, other than other ones that they're just there to be there because maybe their parents want them there or whatever the case may be. But at the end of the day, it's just like renting a house. I'd rather have a felon that's gonna go to work and pay their rent because it's so hard for them to get a place, rather than, well, this person don't have a record, but they rent money going to the casino. But you can't see that because it's not on paper. I just think, like, if they are owning companies and they are owning homes, that take the time to just set up an interview with that person and talk to that person, because just because you see it on paper don't mean that's who they still are today. Give them that chance. With the technology and everything today, it's just like there's no more communicating. Exactly. And so it's a barrier for everybody regardless of the situation, but it puts an extra barrier, like, okay, well, that's definitely not. And so I would just wish some of it would go away, in a sense. So you have to go and see that person and meet that person and talk to that person, because a lot of times you talk to that person, then you get the story, and it's not the story that you see on paper.